Developing tonight, a family is in mourning after a shooting kills a 16-year-old in Gastonia. We now know that teen is Zaquavius Dawkins, a student at Ashbrook High School. Police telling us the shooting happened around 5:45 last night behind Los Arcos. That's a Mexican restaurant, Esther Street. WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker live now from Gastonia Police Department in Austin. You spoke with the family today. How are they coping?
Yeah, so this obviously is a very sad story. They're really just being together right now, all while lifting up Zaquavius' name. You know, he was a football player, also played basketball, and on the ROTC. He had very big dreams of getting out of this area, and he wanted to go to college to play football. So obviously, this guy had a lot going for him. This all being said, his family really is saying that they are just hurt by this and just are seeking justice. An empty parking lot Monday morning, telling a different story from the night before.
When I got here, there was police, ambulance.
Just before 6 on Sunday night, Gastonia police were called to the parking lot of Los Arcos in Gastonia. Once on scene, they found a person shot, the victim taken to the hospital where he later died. The family telling us his name is 16-year-old Zaquavius Laurel Dawkins.
Had a tough time thinking about the whole incident.
Josie Jamie is the owner of the restaurant. He says he's shocked by the level of violence, and it's so sad to see it hit close to him.
And there's police all back here just searching for evidence.
Reminders of the tragedy are still in the parking lot, while the family leans on each other.
They killed my everything.
Zaquavius' mother, Talise, sits on her front porch recalling the night, saying he went to the Family Dollar for her, but in just 15 minutes, she heard there was a shooting and it could have been her son. And today she says it still doesn't feel real.
He awesome. He go to church. He's awesome.
Yes, so Zaquavius does leave behind a very big family and a twin sister. Now, we have reached out to Gastonia Police for more clarifying details, like if a suspect has been taken into custody. We do not know that just yet. We also have asked if the suspect and the victim did know each other. That also has not been released. We will update you on air and online on WCNC as well as WCNC Plus, so stick with us. Coming up at 5 o'clock, we actually hear more about Zaquavius' story from his mom and grandmother. Some heartfelt details about how he really did do it all, and he was a valuable piece to their entire family. So stick with us for that story. For now, we're live in Gastonia. Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte.
Evidently a lot of more information, hopefully forthcoming sooner than later. Thanks, Austin.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. A new artificial intelligence model is making waves this morning, causing tech stocks to drop on Wall Street and upending the current AI race.
A small Chinese company is shaking up the global artificial intelligence race. Let's connect the dots. DeepSeek is a new AI model made in a small lab in China. Despite having a fraction of the resources, it's already outperforming major players like OpenAI, Google, and Meta. Its newest model, R1, is faster, cheaper, and more efficient to produce. Experts are comparing its development to Sputnik in the global space race, calling it a wake-up call for tech innovation. But questions remain. Some wonder how such a small team could surpass the best-funded companies, while others worry about its potential link to the Chinese government. Regardless, DeepSeek's rise is causing waves in the world of AI, with implications for technology, competition, and geopolitics worldwide. And that is Connecting the Dots.
WCNC Charlotte is making a difference with your help. When you share your news tips, we go to work.
I sent you that email. 15 minutes later, you're responding to me.
When a Charlotte woman battling cancer lost her health coverage, we demanded answers.
Within hours of WCNC Charlotte asking questions, the agency responsible quickly corrected its mistake.
Let us get to work for you.
Reach out to news tips at WCNC.com. WCNC Charlotte, news that impacts you.
That report, though, first, as we begin, is shining the new light tonight on the state of education for thousands of families who happen to live right here in Mecklenburg County. Thanks for joining us here at 5. I'm Colin Mayfield.
And I'm Vanessa Rufus. New today, the National Assessment of Educational Progress released its findings on how school districts are faring with reading and math scores. The research looked at almost 4,000 CMS students, and the results, a mixed bag.
So WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker joining us now in studio. And Austin, there are lots of numbers here, of course. Some are promising, but others not as much here.
Yeah, that's right. So do you guys want the good news first or the bad news first?
Let's take the good news. It's a Wednesday.
So the good news, all right, so CMS is above the state average, but bad news, still below pre-pandemic levels. And district leaders say there's still so much work left to be done.
Welcome and thank you for attending.
Wednesday, CMS leaders gather to present data by the National Assessment of Educational Progress, specifically looking at 4th and 8th graders' math and reading test scores. The data reflects 3,800 CMS students, around less than 10% of the students in those grades. Just one example, taking a look at 4th grade math. In 2024, 43% of students were at or above comprehension. However, this is 6% less than what we saw pre-pandemic. But comparing that to the state, CMS students are scoring above the state by 2%. These trends similar for 8th grade math scores and both 4th and 8th grade reading scores.
There is work to be done.
Beth Thompson, CMS Chief of Strategy and Innovation, first blaming COVID for the lack of comprehension, saying the pandemic took a toll on learning, both in the classroom and social-emotional, but points to their 5-year plan to bump up comprehension across the district.
So acknowledging where we are, also recognizing where we need to go will be a major focus both of this year and of future years.
School leaders also say this data shows who is outperforming CMS.
San Diego has had some really great results. And so one of the things I think that this data is helping us be able to reflect on is being able to partner with other districts, such as San Diego, to be able to find out what they're doing.
Yes, the district also talked about prioritized learning. So you hear all the time and time again, students are advancing to the next grade when they're not ready. So that student just falls even more and more behind. So they have tailored plans so that student can also get that additional help. And this is all a part of that 5-year goal by the district. Yeah.
All right. So appreciate that, Austin. Anything ahead that you can update us on, please do.
For sure.
All right. Meantime, tonight, automakers are expressing some concern about President Trump's move to axe tax incentives for electric vehicle purchases. The president has already taken steps to rescind parts of the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act, which includes a $7,500 tax incentive for those who buy an EV. The CEO of Rivian, in an interview with Business Insider, says the EV industry faces a high degree of uncertainty over the next few years. Rivian is one of the more notable electric vehicle brands alongside Tesla, which is owned, of course, by Trump ally Elon Musk. During Trump's campaign, Musk voiced support for ending electric vehicle subsidies. It comes as discussions, though, are ongoing, I should say, in Raleigh over the state's gas tax as electric vehicles grow more popular.
A Bloomberg study found by 2040, most new car sales will come from electric vehicles, and some are wondering how the state will recoup the tax money lost with fewer people getting gas.
It's a great question. WCNC's Megan Bragg verifies.
WCNC Charlotte viewer JW emailed us asking how electric vehicle users get charged when it comes to the gas tax. So let's verify. Our source is the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the U.S. Department of Energy. According to the Department of Energy's most recent stats from 2023, there are more than 70,000 registered electric vehicles on North Carolina roads. With the growing popularity in EVs over the years, leaders in the General Assembly have discussed how to recoup money lost from the North Carolina gas tax. The gas tax helps pay for road construction and maintenance in the state. According to NCDOT's website, the North Carolina DMV charges EV users a $214 fee on top of their vehicle registration fee. This is to help replace the lost revenue ordinarily generated through the gas tax. The fee has increased over the years, so another potential increase is possible. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
When severe weather impacts the Carolinas, you can help us tell the story.
Our radar helps to keep you weather aware, along with images like these. Here's how to send us a video or picture of conditions impacting your area.
Make sure you're in a safe spot. Take a picture or video, then send it to the Near Me feature on our WCNC News app.
Your image could be part of our weather impact coverage. Download the WCNC News app now.
On a Friday morning, time to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. New research shows that popular weight loss drugs could have some long-term health benefits.
Ozempic and Wegovy are being linked to surprising effects on overall health. Let's connect the dots. A new study finds these drugs may improve heart health, reduce infections, lower substance abuse risks, and even decrease the chance of dementia. But they also come with risks, including digestive issues, joint pain, and rare cases of dangerous inflammation. The drugs work by mimicking a gut hormone that suppresses hunger, but their impact goes way beyond weight loss. Scientists believe the drugs could reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and curb addictions like alcohol and tobacco use. More research is needed to fully understand the long-term effects of these drugs, but this study opens new doors for treating various health conditions. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Tonight, a tragic story about a family devastated by a deadly disease with no cure. Dozens of people in this one family all have ALS. 3 whole generations are impacted. Tonight, they're talking exclusively with WCNC Charlotte's Michelle Bowden in an effort to raise awareness about this condition they know all too well.
These 3 men tell an emotional and powerful story of living with a disease that's already killed so many of their family members.
I was diagnosed about a year ago.
I caught mine fairly early, earlier than most folks in our family have caught theirs.
When I got diagnosed, it was almost a relief to me because at that point, like I had an answer, whether it was yes or no.
3 cousins all battling ALS, an incurable neurological disease that robs people of control of their muscles. The deadly disease has ravaged this family for 3 generations.
Our great-grandfather had it. All but one of his children was confirmed ALS cases, and then at least 1 child of every one of those folks have had it. And me and Scotty are the first grandkids that were diagnosed, if I'm not mistaken.
So how many total?
39 out of 3 generations confirmed cases.
For so many family members to suffer from ALS is rare. Only 5 to 10% of people with ALS in the U.S. have a family member with the disease. The cousins say their family members with ALS all have the same gene called SOD1, the second most common cause of genetic ALS worldwide.
What is that like to live with, knowing that something like this runs in the family?
It sucks. It really does. My mom passed away of it when I was 12. She's got a twin sister. She passed away of it about 5 years later, I think, 5 or 6 years later. So in the back of my mind, we always knew it could happen.
I mean, my mother had it. It's not an easy thing to watch someone go through, and knowing where it's going to go eventually is not an easy thing.
And you lost your mom to ALS?
Yes, she passed away 8 years ago next week.
Like, she was beautiful, and like just to see her go through that, like really seeing her like shut herself in her house because like she wanted people to keep that image of her.
I have a daughter that's about to turn 8 years old, so that's constantly kind of on my mind. And worrying about, did I pass this terrible gene to her is really tough. Makes you feel like you're taking a little bit of her childhood away from her sometimes. So she understands that I'm sick. She doesn't really understand what's wrong, but she knows that I can't do some of the things that we used to be able to do together, and that's tough, you know. And she's starting to try to help me, which is tough to see because you're, you know, the father. So I'm very much used to being the person that goes and does and helps other people, and you know, it's a lot harder to do some of that stuff.
Scotty has 4 kids, the youngest just 4.
My 17-year-old and my 14-year-old, they help me a lot.
It's hard for you that they help you?
Yeah, that's probably been one of the hardest things to live with, is accepting people's help.
Doing simple stuff anymore has gotten a little difficult. I rely on my wife a lot. So, yeah, a little difficult.
All three say they're speaking out because they want to spread awareness and hope that someday there'll be a cure.
Because we were able to get diagnosed much earlier, there's, things that we can do to stave it off if possible. So.
And as cousins, they're grateful they have someone who knows exactly what they're going through.
It makes a big difference when we can talk to each other.
A special thank you to all three men for sharing their story. Their hope is that awareness will mean a cure so that their kids don't face what they've faced. Back to you.
Well, and you might remember in the summer of 2014, there was the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. That inspired more than 17 million people around the world to dump ice water in their heads and donate to an ALS organization. The challenge raised $115 million for ALS research and care for folks living with the disease. If you'd like to donate as well, we do have a link on our website, WCNC.com.
All right, let's get out to our forecast, talking about some of those wildfires that are still burning, one contained, one not contained just yet, but it is we are going toward the air quality.
Yeah, is that having an impact, Brittany, the fires?
It absolutely is. It's adding more smoke particles into our atmosphere, and because of this west to east movement with the wind, it is going to impact places in McDowell County, Burke County, as well as some of our other mountain communities here. Now, the only county that's in our local 22 that we cover here at WCNC Charlotte is Burke County, but you'll notice a lot of yellow for everybody else. Don't look at the yellow and be concerned by that. Moderate is pretty average, but for some of the more rural communities, oftentimes you're in good, and this is all going to be influenced here because of this mix of smoke as well as ground level ozone, which always is present across our atmosphere. The warmth certainly has not helped allow for these levels to get a little bit higher. This is normal, again, when it's warm and we see a lot of sunshine. Now, orange, which is, of course, the code that those counties will be under, is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So this is the elderly, folks already with respiratory concerns, young children. So limiting physical activity or a lot of time outdoors is pretty much the number one and number two thing that you can do here. This will be an account from midnight tonight through midnight tomorrow. So it's only Friday, and it's for those small little sections there of the foothills. But if you're in parts of the mountains or even our northern communities, especially north of I-40, you're pretty much in that direct line where some of that could impact you, again, because of that west to east movement. Now, rain should help a little, but it's not going to arrive for most of the Charlotte area until tomorrow afternoon and evening. So here's a look at Doppler radar right now. Still seeing a few areas of light rain for areas north of I-40, but for everyone else across the metro, again, it's not today that we're seeing that chance of rain. It's mainly tomorrow. Here we are at 6 a.m. You can see all of those areas seeing rain to our north, not quite for south until we get closer to lunchtime. That will be for the mountains and foothills, and then we do eventually see that rain approach Charlotte closer to 4 p.m. 4 to 8, just in time for the evening commute. That's your best chance to see rain tomorrow here in Charlotte. It'll mostly be out of here by 10 o'clock, but still seeing some pockets of moderate to heavy rain for southeastern communities like Anson County, Richmond County, closer to 9 p.m. So probably not a Friday night that you want to be going out and about for dinner, trying to grab a quick bite on maybe a potential dinner break, as all of that rain doesn't wrap up until just after midnight. But Saturday looks fantastic. Sunday looks fantastic. So a lot of good time to get outside. Now, when we look at how much rain, it's not going to be a huge rainmaker. We're looking at 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch as it's relatively fast moving. But this is all good because it's not so much rain that it causes a flooding issue, but it's enough that it will help our current drought conditions here in North and South Carolina, as well as provide just some wetter ground that we desperately need, as it's been a while since we saw a good rain here in Charlotte. High temperatures are really not going to suffer over the next few days as we stay in the 60s and 70s for most of the week. In fact, the lowest temperature we see is Sunday, which is Groundhog Day, 59 though, still about 5 degrees warmer than normal. So here's your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Again, tomorrow 71, that rain mainly coming in for the afternoon and evening. So you'll see that PM late rain little text there on the screen. 65, beautiful on Saturday for scouting for food. A few more clouds on Sunday, but again, really, really nice weather dominating that next week and a half. We really don't see our next chance of rain after tomorrow's until the end of the 10-day.
All right, Brittany, thank you.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond.
We're committed to keeping you safe, informed, and weather aware.
From frost and freezes to snow, the WCNC Weather Impact team tells you the timing and the essentials you need to know. Get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule, always streaming on WCNC Plus.
Your Weather Impact team only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
Scouting for Food is a national effort by the Boy Scouts of America to give back to our communities and help those experiencing food insecurity. In Mecklenburg County, Scouting for Food has brought in more than 5 million pounds of food over the last 3 decades. WCNC Charlotte photojournalist Carrie Corley shows us what scouting means for the Charlotte community and how you can help.
Scouting.
What is scouting?
What is scouting?
What is scouting?
It's an adventure. It's just stuff you wouldn't do every day.
Prepares you for like situations that will be tough on you if you don't have this experience.
It's a lot of fun. You get to experience a bunch of stuff, like
learn how to make a fire. Also helps you be able to cook.
Today, scouts all over Charlotte are out canvassing to put out door hangers for Scouting for Food.
I've learned to not only grow as a person, but grow as a leader.
These blue and red tags are going to let people know that next weekend we'll be back in their neighborhoods collecting food for Nourish Up. It supports the community, it supports people with food insecurity, and we really appreciate everybody's help to get out and fill a bag next weekend.
Thank you for helping us with Scouting for Food.
Man, such a cool effort. Well, Nourish Up provides groceries and hope through a network of food pantries in Charlotte. They are accepting non-perishable food items. All you have to do is fill a bag or a box with those items, then attach the hanger, this hanger, to your door. Here's the front, here's the back right here. And then put your donations outside by next Saturday morning. You can also donate online. You can share, or you can find details on how to do so inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app.
Well, tonight, a controversial bill introduced in South Carolina has some on social media outraged. The bill would have a mother face legal consequences if she purposely caused a miscarriage.
So some on social media claim that the bill includes engaging in everyday activities that could cause a miscarriage here. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies what is actually in this bill.
Keeping them in prison for life if they engage in any activity that results in them losing their pregnancy.
This video on social media has almost 900,000 views, warning people about a bill introduced in South Carolina on January 14th. Under the South Carolina Prenatal Equal Protection Act, it would define an unborn child as a person from fertilization and seek to apply the same legal protections as a person. According to the bill, a person who causes intentional harm to an unborn child would face homicide or assault charges.
This includes any physically demanding job, like bartending. It includes air travel, horseback riding, weightlifting.
This video claims if these activities result in a miscarriage, the mother could be charged with homicide. However, the bill does not specifically state activities. What it does say is no one will be charged in an unintentional death of an unborn child when resulting from a life-saving procedure if needed to save the mother, a natural miscarriage, or the mistake or unintentional error of a doctor. According to the Mayo Clinic, most miscarriages happen because the unborn baby doesn't develop properly. About half to 2/3 of miscarriages in the first trimester are linked with extra or missing chromosomes. They add that they are not typically caused by everyday activities like exercise or a demanding job. However, you should always consult your doctor on what you should and shouldn't do while pregnant. Now you can read the full bill on our website at WCNC.com. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
Question everything and verify with WCNC Charlotte. Taking questions, seeking experts for the answers, and sharing the knowledge to distinguish fact from fiction.
With this breaking news, we're seeing a lot of claims on social media.
No question left unanswered.
Police say this is true. All 4 of those shootings are connected.
Clearing up the confusion and bringing the truth into focus. WCNC Charlotte is guiding the way. And in Raleigh, the North Carolina General Assembly goes back in session tomorrow.
That's right. And Helene is still a focus for state lawmakers. Recovery back in the national spotlight after the president's visit to Western North Carolina just at the end of last week. The president signing a new executive order yesterday to speed up the repairs for the damaged roads, including I-40. Yes, parts of the critical highway between North Carolina and Tennessee are still closed as crews continue their work.
Meantime, questions remain about a new round of relief funding from the state, but a new committee for Helene recovery is set to hit the ground running when legislators return to Raleigh. Now, WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay spoke with the vice chair of that committee. And so, Julie, this sounds like a big step towards more relief, as folks have been asking, where's the money?
Yeah, absolutely. The lawmakers I spoke with today are having conversations right now about where the next round of state relief is coming from and how soon they can get it to those who need it. But federal funding is still up in the air as well. I spoke with a political science expert who says the new Trump administration could also have a big impact.
An estimated $60 billion price tag for recovery for a state whose whole budget is only half that.
The state budget last year was $33 billion for everything. So the state doesn't have it.
On Wednesday, Representative Ray Pickett hopes to start searching for answers at the first official meeting for the House Select Committee for Helene Recovery, a bipartisan committee with a common goal: to identify gaps in resources and funding.
But what is the number going to be that they finally settle on and agree on, and exactly what sources do they take from to pay for that?
Chris Cooper, a political science professor at Western Carolina University, says it's too early to know, but he expects a big relief bill before a full budget.
It's probably not going to go all the way there. I think we're sort of fooling ourselves if we think this is a one and done investment.
Last session, the General Assembly approved $1.1 billion worth of relief bills. The federal government approved $100 billion, though we're still waiting to find out how much is dedicated to North Carolina. Cooper says Trump's freezing of aid and loan programs could also have an impact.
Folks they've got some grant money to help out and do Helene relief. Maybe they're doing a little bit of research along with that. That funding might also be cut. Those paychecks for those folks who are in the region that are affected might be halted, at least temporarily.
No matter what, Pickett says help is coming.
I'm in government and I realize how slow it moves. So I understand that we have to do things a certain way, but we're going to try to get things moving quicker.
The committee anticipating a big price tag.
Now we've got to start rebuilding
For an immediate need.
In addition to Helene relief, Cooper also expects a focus on education and school choice funding, as well as expanding casinos in the state. Colin, Vanessa, back to you.
All right, Julie, thank you so much for your updates.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense, the president's threat of international tariffs could have impacts on national interest rates.
The Federal Reserve is keeping a close eye on possible tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Let's connect the dots. Tariffs could push up prices on imported goods, impacting both businesses and all of us. Historically, the Fed has lowered interest rates to counteract trade war disruptions. But after years of high inflation, the central bank might take a different approach this time. Experts with the Wall Street Journal say businesses and consumers are more used to rising prices now. If tariffs push inflation higher, the Fed might keep interest rates steady longer to keep costs under control. The key question is whether tariffs will create a temporary spike in inflation or prolonged economic pressure, shaping how the Fed might react. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Every morning, your mission is to get ahead of traffic. Our mission is to save you time and get you there safe.
You can trust WCNC Charlotte to alert you to trouble spots impacting your commute. Stay on the move with WCNC Impact Traffic. WCNC Plus. Stream now.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news make sense. In order to help meet the rising goal for deportation efforts, the Trump administration needs more money. And recently, they've mentioned pulling funds from the TSA and Coast Guard.
Immigration Customs Enforcement needs more money to meet President Trump's deportation goals. Let's connect the dots. According to NBC News, ICE is facing a budget shortfall. Now the Trump administration is considering shifting funds from TSA, Coast Guard, and Cybersecurity Agency to cover those costs. ICE has been ordered to arrest between 1,200 and 1,500 people a day, far more than before. The agency is expected to conduct raids in at least 3 cities per week. A recent report shows ICE has received an additional $2 billion in funding over the last decade. But experts say President Trump's goal to deport millions could send costs into the tens of billions. To help meet those quotas, the administration is asking other agencies like the FBI and DEA to assist with arrests. raising concerns about stretching law enforcement resources too thin. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Year after year, there is a New Year's resolution that reigns supreme: getting fit. It can be a tough task. WCNC Charlotte's Nick Sturdivant spoke with a dietitian with Novant Health to break down how you can stick to your fitness journey.
A new poll from Statista shows 3 of the 4 top New Year's resolutions for 2025 are eating healthier, exercising more, and losing weight, which begs the question, so where do you start?
So I think that a lot of times going into the new year, we do need a reset.
Callie Ford is a registered dietitian with Novant Health. She says there are 3 things to keep in mind before making that grocery list or heading over to the gym. First, make a plan.
Because you're likely to stick with it. I'm personally a visual person, and typically my patients are as well. And so I say, let's purchase a whiteboard. I know that sounds silly, but it's effective. Let's purchase a meal planner or a paper journal.
Next, keep it simple.
So when someone asks me, what should my plate look like? I always like to go into detail of start with your protein. Your protein is going to be the most satisfying, what we call macronutrient. And then we're going to add our vegetables, and then we would add our carbohydrates, specifically whole grains.
And then finally, set realistic goals.
Don't go into the new year trying to aim for 5 days a week that you're exercising if you have not stepped foot in a gym in 6 months. So starting small, something like 2 to 3 times a week, and then slowly build your way up.
It's rare to find people that when they're following these 3 steps to be consistent with either the diet and the exercise. And what I'm hearing is, it's not really a question, but those 2 go hand in hand.
I had a trainer one time tell me that you cannot out-train a bad diet.
And look, you don't have to completely cut out your favorites. Ford says the key is moderation. Reporting for WCNC Charlotte, I'm Nick Sturdivant.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond. From frost and freezes to snow, get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule.
Your Weather Impact Team, only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
Well, tonight we are hearing from Child Time Monroe after a daycare worker there was charged with 3 counts of abuse.
Yeah, we first told you about this earlier this month when multiple parents came forward with child abuse allegations. They say it was taking place inside the daycare. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King has new reaction from parents tonight.
Well, after we reported about the allegations, the Monroe Police Department and North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services performed an investigation. And tonight I dug through their findings, and I also spoke to the daycare and parents to figure out what's going on.
You should be able to rely on your daycare. That's like the one safe haven. It's scary to think it makes you think every daycare is this way. You can't trust anybody.
Tonight, families of children who attend Child Time Monroe are awaiting answers.
My nephew has come home with a handprint before, and there was never an explanation for that. And when you're asked, they're like, oh, we don't know about that.
A few weeks ago, parents and family were alerted of alleged child abuse taking place at the daycare. Allegations included fight clubs and multiple children reportedly being sprayed with spray bottles. Charges were filed, and that's when the Monroe Police Department got involved.
Obviously, we want to do everything we can to protect our vulnerable community, which includes the children. So anytime that a parent has a concern like this, then I hope they know they should come to us.
Morgan Malone with the Monroe Police Department says there wasn't enough evidence to support the fight club allegations, but
they did find enough evidence to charge the one teacher with the 3 counts of assault on the children.
That teacher, 30-year-old Delisha Chambers, charged with spraying the children with water or a soap and water mix. The daycare has since released a statement saying in part, quote, "We conducted a thorough internal review and provided our full cooperation in the investigation conducted by our state licensing department regarding this matter, which did not result in any citations related to abuse or these charges." Still, families say they just hope this isn't swept under the rug.
And every person in there who has anything to do with anything needs to be held accountable.
That daycare worker is scheduled to be in court next month. In Monroe, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond.
We're committed to keeping you safe, informed, and weather aware.
From frost and freezes to snow, The WCNC Weather Impact Team tells you the timing and the essentials you need to know. Get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule, always streaming on WCNC Plus.
Your Weather Impact Team, only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
All right, let's get out to our forecast, talking about some of those wildfires that are still burning, one contained, one not contained just yet, but it is we are going toward the air quality.
Yeah, is that having an impact, Brittany, the fires?
It absolutely is. It's adding more smoke particles into our atmosphere, and because of this west to east movement with the wind, it is going to impact places in McDowell County, Burke County, as well as some of our other mountain communities here. Now, the only county that's in our local 22 that we cover here at WCNC Charlotte is Burke County, but you'll notice a lot of yellow for everybody else. Don't look at the yellow and be concerned by that. Moderate is pretty average, but for some of the more rural communities, oftentimes you're in good, and this is all going to be influenced here because of this mix of smoke as well as ground level ozone, which always is present across our atmosphere. The warmth certainly has not helped allow for these levels to get a little bit higher. This is normal, again, when it's warm and we see a lot of sunshine. Now, orange, which is, of course, the code that those counties will be under, is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So this is the elderly, folks already with respiratory concerns, young children. So limiting physical activity or a lot of time outdoors is pretty much the number one and number two thing that you can do here. This will be an account from midnight tonight through midnight tomorrow. So it's only Friday, and it's for those small little sections there of the foothills. But if you're in parts of the mountains or even our northern communities, especially north of I-40, you're pretty much in that direct line where some of that could impact you, again, because of that west to east movement. Now, rain should help a little, but it's not going to arrive for most of the Charlotte area until tomorrow afternoon and evening. So here's a look at Doppler radar right now. Still seeing a few areas of light rain for areas north of I-40, but for everyone else across the metro, again, it's not today that we're seeing that chance of rain. It's mainly tomorrow. Here we are at 6 a.m. You can see all of those areas seeing rain to our north, not quite for south until we get closer to lunchtime. That will be for the mountains and foothills, and then we do eventually see that rain approach Charlotte closer to 4 p.m. 4 to 8, just in time for the evening commute. That's your best chance to see rain tomorrow here in Charlotte. It'll mostly be out of here by 10 o'clock, but still seeing some pockets of moderate to heavy rain for southeastern communities like Anson County, Richmond County, closer to 9 p.m. So probably not a Friday night that you want to be going out and about for dinner, trying to grab a quick bite on maybe a potential dinner break, as all of that rain doesn't wrap up until just after midnight. But Saturday looks fantastic. Sunday looks fantastic. So a lot of good time to get outside. Now, when we look at how much rain, it's not going to be a huge rainmaker. We're looking at 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch as it's relatively fast moving. But this is all good because it's not so much rain that it causes a flooding issue, but it's enough that it will help our current drought conditions here in North and South Carolina, as well as provide just some wetter ground that we desperately need, as it's been a while since we saw a good rain here in Charlotte. High temperatures are really not going to suffer over the next few days as we stay in the 60s and 70s for most of the week. In fact, the lowest temperature we see is Sunday, which is Groundhog Day, 59 though, still about 5 degrees warmer than normal. So here's your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Again, tomorrow 71, that rain mainly coming in for the afternoon and evening. So you'll see that PM late rain little text there on the screen. 65, beautiful on Saturday for scouting for food. A few more clouds on Sunday, but again, really, really nice weather dominating that next week and a half. We really don't see our next chance of rain after tomorrow's until the end of the 10-day.
All right, Brittany, thank you.
Meanwhile, Gaston County Schools is combating the statewide teacher shortage in a new way. 150 international teachers are helping to fill the open slots. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay shows us how the district is helping them acclimate to new school and a new country.
As a teacher, you're almost always on your feet, but these Gaston County teachers took an even bigger step than most.
It was a culture shock.
Karen Archer is the new teacher support facilitator for the county, specifically working with the 150 international teachers, 45 of them new this year. In the midst of a teacher shortage, they're a huge part of the school community.
Why not do something to engage them so that we can build community and then we'll be more exposed to the U.S. culture?
A unique job that she hopes will spread to other schools, and a unique understanding of the challenges she shares with other teachers.
It is overwhelming. They missed home, the challenges with regards to students' misbehavior. They are stressed.
21 years ago, she moved from Jamaica to teach at Bessemer Middle School. Not long after, her son Andre came to join her.
Exercise
is the greatest form of medicine that's not in a pill, right?
He's now a personal trainer who spent his Sunday teaching these teachers and their kids how to manage the stress.
A lot of the teachers are going through a hard time with the shortage right now. They're working long hours and not necessarily finding ways to relieve any stress.
This one event and this one family, a sign of a larger community being built.
We're one world, and it's a global society.
Step by step, wherever they're going.
So we work as a team, wherever we're from.
They do it together. In Gastonia, Julie Kay, WCNC Charlotte.
First up and new tonight at 11, folks are sharing concerns about the line that divides Catawba and Lincoln counties.
In just under a week, February 2nd, this county line will move, as you can see, south a little bit, following a year-long review by the North Carolina Geodetic Survey. Now, our Tradisha Woodard joins us now with more details on what you should know about this.
One of the biggest concerns echoed here tonight was the lack of transparency, with many folks saying they recently found out about redistricting plans last week. Now they came out to discuss a shift they say is going to have a big impact.
It smells like fraud.
The line that splits Catawba County from Lincoln County, now a blur.
It's been kind of rushed and hasn't been kind of rolled out in a transparent way for everybody.
This comes after officials decided to redistrict county lines back to the way they were in 1842 to better reflect state mapping and relieve confusion on things like voting locations.
It was a surprise.
A surprise that now has this room filled with questions from folks that feel like they were just tossed on the other side of the line.
The Lincoln County commissioners tried to talk with Catawba, and Catawba does not want to play ball. They want our tax money.
My wife and I bought in Lincoln County with the hope of raising a family and, having our future kids go to school in Lincoln County.
385 parcels currently in Lincoln County will soon move to Catawba County. There's also 334 parcels that will be split between the two counties, a decision some are calling a slap in the face.
It was like having the rug pulled out from underneath you.
What they're putting the kids through and changing schools is incredibly dramatic. Frustration with the county commissioners that they're doing this all behind closed doors. I'm sure in an effort to keep this easy for them, they are making it really challenging for hundreds of families.
And we spoke to some residents who are already preparing to take extra steps, reaching out to state representatives, trying to spark new conversations that would add newer options to the table. Reporting in Lincoln County, Tradisha Woodard, WCNC Charlotte.
Now, lots of folks set to be impacted are reaching out to us tonight asking why exactly the boundary line is changing. So we dug into the records and we found the original boundary line was established by the state of North Carolina in 1842. Now, over decades, we did see here land changes causing that boundary to slowly shift about 500 feet. As you can imagine, that caused a lot of confusion among folks there. And so in 2022, both counties reached out to the state. They wanted to solidify where the line really was. Once the line was solidified last year, the counties got 1 year to actually adopt this, and that deadline is this upcoming Sunday. So with just days left, some are now pushing for that boundary to be changed back to what it was commonly recognized as, while others are looking to return it to its original lines.
When severe weather impacts the Carolinas, you can help us tell the story.
Our radar helps to keep you weather aware, along with images like these. Here's how to send us a video or picture of conditions impacting your area.
Make sure you're in a safe spot. Take a picture or video, then send it to the Near Me feature on our WCNC News app.
Your image could be part of our weather impact coverage. Download the WCNC News app now.
Well, tonight, Charlotte City leaders are wrapping up day 2 of their annual retreat. Today's topics included mobility and workforce development. WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman was in Asheville again for the retreat and shows us these new details that they shared for their massive transit plan.
When we talk about Charlotte's proposed mobility plan, we tend to focus on big projects like the proposed red and silver lines. But staff members say there are smaller projects happening right now that will make a big impact.
And I think people can't see.
On day 2 of the Charlotte City Council's annual retreat, on top of the to-do list, mobility.
It gives us the best opportunity to lift ourselves up.
Leaders say the proposed regional mobility plan is more than just transit infrastructure.
It will be one of the biggest workforce development initiatives that we've ever done.
Director of Strategic Mobility, Ed McKinney, says they're already working on a project called Strategic Investment Areas.
The context of this was about basic things: sidewalks, pedestrian crossings. We've got some new traffic signals.
In a pilot program, the city is making improvements in the Harrisburg Road and Arrowwood Road areas, and they've identified specific project needs in every council district.
In a series of small projects, it'll have big impact, but we've unbundled the big projects so that we can do things quicker.
If approved, the strategic investment areas will see more than $1 billion of investment over 30 years.
The small things make a difference because people have asked for bus shelters in so many years.
It's one part of the $25 billion mobility plan, which is contingent on a 1-cent sales tax referendum that city leaders hope to have on the November election ballot this year. The plan includes investment in over 2,000 bus stops and shelters and increasing bus service to 15-minute intervals for 60% of riders.
Frequency in the bus system is freedom.
Councilman Tariq Bakari says more details are needed before this plan can be implemented.
You've made a lot of progress. Let's just not fall into the traditional Charlotte trap of marketing our way through the final headwinds that we have to experience. Let's be transparent. Let's call it what it is.
If the mobility plan becomes a reality, 40% of the revenue generated from that sales tax increase would go to roads, 20% to bus and microtransit, and then another 40% to rail line projects. In Asheville, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
A handful of men, including an Army employee from Fort Liberty, North Carolina, are facing charges. They're accused of trying to connect with children for sex.
The arrest came through a year-long operation by the Rowan County Sheriff's Office. The mission aimed at gauging the prevalence of human trafficking in the county and fighting these cases.
WCNC Charlotte anchor Vanessa Roof is joining us now with more on this operation and what the sheriff is saying tonight. Vanessa?
Hi, Jane. Hi, Nick here. Sheriff Travis Allen telling me that this operation brought many shocking revelations for him and for his team, and it ultimately freed a 16-year-old from essentially sex slavery. She had reportedly run away from her home in South Carolina and connected with a trafficker who groomed her.
Everything in her life was dependent on that person that was trafficking her food, her cell phone, her clothing. She actually thought that the guy that was pimping her was somebody that truly was caring for her and was her caregiver.
The sheriff says the human trafficking operation also netted these 5 men who he says were from all over the region and communicated sexually with Rowan County deputies posed as children. One man even showing up to a Salisbury home thinking he was meeting a child for sex.
It's mentally draining. These guys are sitting there doing these chats. They have children and they're crying. When you're engaged with one of these child predators and you're pretending to be an 8-year-old or you're pretending to be a 12-year-old and you have an 8-year-old at home or a 12-year-old at home, they had to step out of the room. It was scary to me as a parent to see how, I guess the right word is easy it was for our detectives to go online and find people that were wanting to do things with children. If my children were still young, I don't think they'd ever own an iPhone or a tablet or have ever internet access, but it's part of their life. But it's very dangerous.
Now, there is so much that goes into these human trafficking operations, as we've learned by speaking with the sheriff. So we'd mentioned that it was a year-long operation. There were 3 parts, and this was the final of 3 parts. But Sheriff Allen says that every day his office worked on this investigation, they had 30 to 40 officers on it, just because they needed folks doing all sorts of different things, including surveillance. And he says he only has 130 officers on his force, so 30 to 40 officers out of 130. Now, there's so much more to talk about when it comes to human trafficking in our area. For example, did you know that many of these predators do find and groom kids through every social media app out there, even video games with online interfaces? We heard from the sheriff there. He'd be hesitant to just let a child have free reign to a digital device. So on that note, we do invite you to download WCNC Plus to your favorite streaming device and learn more about this important topic by streaming our hour-long human trafficking special that will run tonight at 6:30.
All right, Vanessa, thank you for that eye-opening story right there.
Yes.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond. From frost and freezes to snow, get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule.
Your Weather Impact team only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
As we wrap up National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, we wanted to add some perspective to our coverage that we've been giving you all week long. So the National Human Trafficking Hotline keeps track of lots of data, and it reports since its creation nearly 20 years ago, calls to its center have identified 197,000 human trafficking victims, 197,000 people. To put that in perspective, that is nearly 3 packed Bank of America stadiums. Now, as far as the Carolinas go, about 7,000 of these folks were in North Carolina. About 3,200 were in South Carolina. And while the National Human Trafficking Hotline reports more of its overall reported cases nationwide do deal with sex trafficking, labor trafficking is really important to keep an eye on. So we're talking about domestic labor, agricultural work, that type of nature of work. It's just as much of a concern in the Carolinas as both states have rural areas where this problem can flourish. Now, the agency also points out that there is a myth here, one that they're really trying to bust, that those being exploited always know that they're a victim.
At its core, human trafficking is the exploitation of someone's existing vulnerabilities, right? So traffickers are really good at identifying the victim's vulnerabilities and their needs so that they can exploit them. So that could look like a physical need, such as needing a place to stay, needing a warm meal. That could look like something less tangible as far as exploiting a need of love or a sense of family or belonging. So traffickers are really good at identifying those needs and moving forward into an exploitative type of relationship with those victims and survivors of trafficking.
So that's Letisa Jones. She is a supervisor with the National Human Trafficking Hotline. She mentioned exploiting a need for love. In many of these cases, she and other advocates say that a loved one or an intimate partner might actually be the trafficker. And so that might make it much more difficult for someone to recognize they're being exploited and also maybe leave if they do realize it eventually. Now, anyone can contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline with a tip or to report their own victimization. Here's the number, 888-373-7888. There's also a text-based reporting, and so you can text 233-733. So that's the number to text. There's also an online tip submission platform that they have. The organization also offers this online quiz, and so this is meant to deepen folks' understanding of this nuanced issue. If you scan this QR code, that will take you to our web article where we detail all of that we've learned this month about human trafficking nationwide and also in our area, and we can also link you to that quiz. We also had this hour-long special looking at cases of human trafficking here in the Carolinas with advocate insights on the common thread of social media in their child trafficking cases and also law enforcement perspective on why these investigations are so difficult. So we invite you to download our WCNC Plus app to your favorite streaming platform and tune in for that special show that's coming up at 6:30.
Well, all new at 4 o'clock, the family of the 15-year-old boy who was shot and killed in Uptown this week speaks out. 15-year-old Matthias Crockett was shot and killed on Wednesday. 28-year-old Kashawn Boyd is facing a first-degree murder charge in his death. Police say on Wednesday evening, Boyd got out of his car and left it running. He says when he returned, Crockett was inside his car. Police say there was a struggle before Boyd shot and killed Crockett. WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman joins us live on West 8th Street, where it happened. Julia, what did the family have to say today?
Nick, Matthias's extended and immediate family gathered with media today because they want the public to know who Matthias was. They say he was a kind and quiet kid, and he just got mixed up with the wrong crowd of kids over the last few months. Unfortunately, it cost him his life.
I call him our small, big, little man because he was short, but he had a big heart.
A great big brother, a cancer survivor, and a freshman on West Charlotte High School's wrestling team.
And he was so excited.
Excited.
He would call me and I would say, well, y'all got a match? He was like, yeah, Grandma, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you so you can come.
These are a few ways Matthias Crockett's family describes him.
My son wasn't a bad kid.
His stepfather, CQ Castles, says the teen started falling into trouble over the last few months.
I constantly had talks with him about, you know, the guys that he was hanging around and the kids that he was hanging around, the social decisions that he was making at the time.
Castle says Matthias snuck out one night, and now their family is grieving over an unimaginable loss.
We begged my son to come home, and unfortunately he didn't make it home, doing the wrong thing, following the wrong crowd of little boys.
Matthias's mother too upset to speak, but sitting in solidarity with her family as they share a call to action to others.
We got to do something about these kids, and it's their age range.
Matthias's family says he was with someone the night of the shooting, and they're urging that person to come forward and talk to police. Live in Uptown, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
Julia, thank you for that report.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond.
We're committed to keeping you safe, informed, and weather aware.
From frost and freezes to snow, the WCNC Weather Impact team tells you the timing and the essentials you need to know. Get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule, always streaming on WCNC Plus.
Your Weather Impact team only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
All right, let's get out to our forecast, talking about some of those wildfires that are still burning, one contained, one not contained just yet, but it is talking, we are going toward the air quality.
Yeah, is that having an impact, Brittany, the fires?
It absolutely is. It's adding more smoke particles into our atmosphere, and because of this west to east movement with the wind, it is going to impact places in McDowell County, Burke County, as well as some of our other mountain communities here. Now, the only county that's in our local 22 that we cover here at WCNC Charlotte is Burke County, but you'll notice a lot of yellow for everybody else. Don't look at the yellow and be concerned by that. Moderate is pretty average, but for some of the more rural communities, oftentimes you're in good, and this is all going to be influenced here because of this mix of smoke as well as ground level ozone, which always is present across our atmosphere. The warmth certainly has not helped allow for these levels to get a little bit higher. This is normal, again, when it's warm and we see a lot of sunshine. Now, orange, which is, of course, the code that those counties will be under, is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So this is the elderly, folks already with respiratory concerns, young children. So limiting physical activity or a lot of time outdoors is pretty much the number one and number two thing that you can do here. This will be an account from midnight tonight through midnight tomorrow. So it's only Friday, and it's for those small little sections there of the foothills. But if you're in parts of the mountains or even our northern communities, especially north of I-40, you're pretty much in that direct line where some of that could impact you again because of that west to east movement. Now, rain should help a little, but it's not going to arrive for most of the Charlotte area until tomorrow afternoon and evening. So here's a look at Doppler radar right now. Still seeing a few areas of light rain for areas north of I-40, but for everyone else across the metro, again, it's not today that we're seeing that chance of rain. It's mainly tomorrow. Here we are at 6 a.m. You can see all of those areas seeing rain to our north, not quite for south until we get closer to lunchtime. That will be for the mountains and foothills, and then we do eventually see that rain approach Charlotte closer to 4 p.m. 4 to 8, just in time for the evening commute. That's your best chance to see rain tomorrow here in Charlotte. It'll mostly be out of here by 10 o'clock, but still seeing some pockets of moderate to heavy rain for southeastern communities like Anson County, Richmond County, closer to 9 p.m. So probably not a Friday night that you want to be going out and about for dinner, trying to grab a quick bite on maybe a potential dinner break, as all of that rain doesn't wrap up until just after midnight. But Saturday looks fantastic. Sunday looks fantastic. So a lot of good time to get outside. Now, when we look at how much rain, it's not going to be a huge rainmaker. We're looking at 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch as it's relatively fast moving. But this is all good because it's not so much rain that it causes a flooding issue, but it's enough that it will help our current drought conditions here in North and South Carolina, as well as provide just some wetter ground that we desperately need, as it's been a while since we saw a good rain here in Charlotte. High temperatures are really not going to suffer over the next few days as we stay in the 60s and 70s for most of the week. In fact, the lowest temperature we see is Sunday, which is Groundhog Day, 59 though, still about 5 degrees warmer than normal. So here's your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Again, tomorrow 71, that rain mainly coming in for the afternoon and evening. So you'll see that PM late rain little text there on the screen. 65, beautiful on Saturday for scouting for food. A few more clouds on Sunday, but again, really, really nice weather dominating that next week and a half. We really don't see our next chance of rain after tomorrow's until the end of the 10-day.
All right, Brittany, thank you.
The Gaston County Sheriff's Office launching a new app to help people stay informed and connected. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King joins us in studio now. Anna, what can you tell us about this app?
Well, this app has features like inmate search, staff contact information, and safety alerts. Today, officials told me they've been working on this app for about 18 months now, and they say it's designed to ease their lives as well as the lives as county residents.
People living in Gaston County now have more information at their fingertips.
The sheriff wanted our citizens to have a voice, and he wants to be real transparent on the things that we do.
For the past 18 months, a team of former sheriffs collaborated to create the Gaston County Sheriff's app. The app is meant to take the burden off of department staff and make residents' lives easier. And using it is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Some of the main things that we do provide on the app is staff directory, inmate lookup, sex offender registry.
Residents can also receive notifications from Drive-NC, Community Works, and get information on courthouse services. But Chief Deputy Wyatt says the biggest feature is that residents will now be able to add money to inmates' commissary and phones, something that will ease the load off of workers at the department and save residents some time.
There's people coming from all across the county to use the kiosk that's up front to put money on inmates' accounts and so forth. And so if you live up in Cherryville, if you live up in Lucia, that's a 45, 50-minute ride, to whereas everyone nowadays has a smartphone that they can use at their fingertips and do the same thing in our lobby that they can do on their phone.
And one other thing he mentioned is that you can share comments or concerns directly to department staff through the app, and that app is now available for use. We have a link on our website at WCNC.com. But for now, here in the studio, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
News this morning for Queen City workers. A new bank rate study shows you are getting more bang for your buck when it comes to the cost of living. The Charlotte metro area ranked third nationwide for spending power. Here in Charlotte, the average salary is around $64,000, but that's equal to a spending power of more than $66,000.
Charlotte is such an interesting case because we know over the past several years, there's just been an influx of people moving from these high-cost cities like New York, banking sectors, really putting down roots here in Charlotte. And I think you can really tell the difference even when you're just trying to travel from place to place. So a big question mark is really what this means moving forward, especially as demand for some of these low-cost cities rises.
But you might be shaking your head because you know how much more expensive Charlotte's become in the last few years. Evidently, San Antonio got this top spot, but workers in cities like San Francisco, New York, Seattle, and LA all saw their spending power decrease.
Question everything and verify with WCNC Charlotte. Taking questions, seeking experts for the answers, and sharing the knowledge to distinguish fact from fiction. WCNC Charlotte is guiding the way.
Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully you have a lot to look forward to this year. But if you're a space lover or a stargazer, here are the top events on the 2025 celestial calendar you can't miss. Let's raise that IQ. March 14th, the full worm blood moon. The last time we saw a lunar eclipse was back in November of 2022. The eclipse begins around midnight, but the peak of totality, when the moon looks like this and is completely red, will last from 2:26 a.m. until 3:31 a.m. That's a full 65 minutes. This one is special because everyone in the continental United States will be able to see it. Meteor showers. There are 12 main reoccurring meteor showers that repeat every year, but the two best every year are the Perseids and the Geminids. The Perseids peak from August 12th to the 13th, but this year the moon will be 84% full and up for most of the night, meaning this will be one of the weaker shows compared to previous years. The Geminids this year will be better than normal though. Astronomers say that this is the best show of the year, so from December 13th to the 14th, the meteor shower kicks into high gear after 8 p.m. The moon will be a waning crescent, meaning less than 30% illuminated, allowing us to see up to 60 meteors per hour, if you're in the right place away from light pollution. Lastly, the supermoon. There are 3 supermoons in 2025, in October, November, and December, but the November 5th supermoon will be the biggest. A supermoon happens when the moon is closer to Earth. This moon will only be 221,818 miles away. That's the closest it's been since 2019, and the most supermoon in over 5 years. So happy New Year and happy stargazing. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy with WCNC Charlotte.
Drivers, listen up here. If you're heading to Matthews down 485, construction is still going on for the Weddington Road interchange, but your GPS might tell you the road's open. It was supposed to open months ago, but it has been delayed, and that could cause some dangerous conditions for drivers who aren't paying attention and are strictly just following their GPS. WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker takes a closer look.
Yes, driving can really be a challenge for a lot of people. After 3 years in Charlotte, I can confidently say I still use my GPS. Here's me driving to Matthews from Charlotte down I-485. It tells me to get off on Weddington. By the look on my face, though, that's not possible. This is the Weddington Road interchange. NCDOT says the plan was put forth back in 2019. It was set to open at the end of 2024, but now it's 2025 and this road is still closed. So why does my GPS tell me it's open? Now, if a driver isn't familiar or they're just not paying that close of attention, this could all be dangerous. We alerted NCDOT of the issue. A spokesperson, shocked by our findings, says they are sending someone out as soon as possible to make sure the road is properly marked as closed. The department adds the Weddington Road interchange was never labeled as open and says Google Maps might have seen increased traffic in that area, making it believe the road is open. Now, we have reached out to Google Maps asking those same questions, why this road is deemed accessible, and they have not gotten back to us. For now, in Matthews, Austin Walker, WCNC Charlotte.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond. From frost and freezes to snow, get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule.
Your Weather Impact team only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
On February 2nd, we look to Punxsutawney Phil, the prognosticators of prognosticators, to predict the second half of winter. But why do we do that? Let's raise that weather IQ. The tradition roots back to old Germany. Originally, Germans used European badgers to forecast weather during the midpoint of winter. When they settled in Pennsylvania, groundhogs became the new weather prophets. Fun fact, groundhogs are also known as woodchucks or whistle pigs because of the sounds they make. Before we called it Groundhog Day, February 2nd was known as Candlemas Day. As the folklore goes, if Candlemas be fair and bright, winter will have another flight. If Candlemas bring clouds and rain, winter won't come again. Here's how it works. On a sunny day, if Phil sees his shadow, we're in for 6 more weeks of winter. The idea is that if it's a nice day on the midpoint of winter, it will only get worse for the second half. On a cloudy, snowy, or rainy day, an animal likely won't see his shadow, and spring might be just around the corner, since the weather is ideally only going to get better. This strategy has not proven to be successful. Phil, no, not this Phil has not been a meteorological genius. Since 1887, he's only been right around 40% of the time, typically predicting more winter than spring. While there are hundreds of local groundhogs across the United States, Punxsutawney Phil remains the most famous despite his average. Wishing you a happy Groundhog Day, brought to us by 2 Phils, a meteorologist, Chris Mulcahy.
For young people standing at life's crossroads, the right guide can really make the difference.
No doubt. During today's impactful Youth Mentoring Summit here in Charlotte, leaders in education, law enforcement, and mental health came together for one common goal: ensuring every young person has the support they need to succeed. WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre was at the summit and shares more on how the community leaders there are seeking solutions.
The summit opened with a powerful quote by Frederick Douglass: "It is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men." During the workshops and panels, experts spoke about how a single positive relationship can change the trajectory of a young person's life and the role mentorship can play in shaping the next generation. A room filled with people who can make a difference and conversations that can transform lives.
And it's so critically important that our young people, our folks that are in the various different places of life, see themselves not as they are in some cases, but as they can be.
Thursday's impactful Youth Mentoring Summit had panels tackling everything from mental health to youth crime and efforts to help kids stay and get on the right track. Their answer? A mentor.
How many of you can say that you got here where you are today because of someone else pouring into you? I'll raise my hand.
The summit shined light on the battles young people face and how mentorship can turn obstacles into opportunities, especially for those facing mental health struggles, academic hurdles, or risky behavior.
You know, if you know better, you'll do better. And yes, this child may have offended at some point in time, but spending time to take them to get a North Carolina ID card so they can get that job with that connection that we have with the manager at a local restaurant. So if you're at work, then you're not out on the street.
Experts say mentored kids are more likely to enroll in college, volunteer in their community, and achieve career success. It was also related to lower criminal activity, showing the impact of a mentor's guidance. An investment that goes beyond a call to action.
Knowing you can change a child's tomorrow by the actions you take today.
A mentor can be a teacher, a coach, a neighbor, a positive influence, anyone willing to invest the time and care. Jessie Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
Every morning, your mission is to get ahead of traffic. Our mission is to save you time and get you there safe.
You can trust WCNC Charlotte to alert you to trouble spots impacting your commute. Stay on the move with WCNC Impact Traffic. WCNC Plus. Stream now.
And President Trump is not the only one tonight criticizing FEMA's response to Hurricane Helene. Avery County's manager also describing the agency's delivery efforts of temporary homes to the victims of the hurricane as unacceptable.
His words come amid growing concerns about dozens of FEMA trailers sitting unused in a parking lot an hour and a half away. FEMA officials told WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito the agency has housed 140 families through this program, but he learned others continue to wait.
Look beyond the armed guards and through the chain link fence.
Taxes it hard at work.
And you'll see what looks like a simple solution.
I wonder why they're sitting here and not with the family that needs it.
Almost 80 FEMA trailers shipped in from Alabama and Maryland that Aiden Lingerfeld, who works nearby, says haven't budged in months.
They came in, they've been sitting since.
He's far from the only one who shared those words. A WCNC Charlotte viewer emailed me a picture of these trailers and said they've been here since Thanksgiving. She wondered when the federal government was going to deliver them to the people of Western North Carolina. So we came up to Hickory, and during our visit, we ran into a FEMA spokesperson who told us the agency is moving trailers out of here all the time. The federal agency says it's placed 140 households in temporary units like these, has 49 trailers in Helene-impacted counties that are in the process of being installed, and has active work orders for another 18 trailers that will eventually be delivered to a combination of private and commercial sites. But it's not as seamless as the public would hope. County permitting requirements and weather delays have slowed down the process.
We got to get the victim in the home, and logistically it has been tough. The weather has not cooperated at all, but that can't be an excuse.
Philip Barrier says 10 families in Avery County need trailers, and so far, FEMA has only delivered 2.
And I hear about them being deployed every day. They're just not deployed to Avery County.
The county manager says as those families remain temporarily housed in hotels, FEMA has spent 2 weeks looking at a possible site where the agency could place several trailers. Finding the right location that's accessible continues to prove challenging. FEMA tells us it has partnered with 18 commercial parks and is working with 15 others.
Logistically, this is a very hard place to come in place a temporary shelter for water and sewer purposes and the layout of the land. We're in the mountains, we're not flat.
Barrier says he and county leaders are doing all they can on their end. They need the federal government to do more.
We cannot accept this. This has been way too slow. We have got to do better.
FEMA says not every household impacted by Helene will need a trailer in the end. Some are living with family members. Others are housed in apartments or short-term rentals. The agency has stocked up at this staging area just to be over-prepared.
A lot of people could use them up there. Hopefully they get up there to them.
But it's clear some of these trailers are needed today. Instead, they're sitting in a parking lot in Hickory. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Multiple Charlotte organizations and tenants are coming together, seeking solutions to mass displacements and gentrification. We told you about the numbers that were put out just a few weeks ago showing the rate of displacements in Charlotte. Now, numbers show low-cost housing accounts for only 8% of the total housing stock, which is a huge drop from the 45% we saw back in 2011. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King spoke to one of those organizations and joins us live with more details.
That's right. Leaders with those organizations say right now they're just hoping for fair treatment for those residents living in low-income housing. And they say they don't think their list of recommendations to the city council is asking for too much.
Messed up. You can obviously see like the dumpsters and stuff, and they force them out pretty fast. Like this is the fastest gentrification I've ever seen in my life.
It's a major issue dominating the Queen City.
Like most places in Charlotte, you know, they just kind of kick out a major portion of a neighborhood, and then, you know, obviously they're going to up the price, and this is either going to be like a shopping mall or like a apartment complex for some college kids or something.
Neighborhoods overcome by new development and residents kicked out. A story many know all too well, and one leaders with One MEC, Action NC, and the redress movement say can only be tackled starting at the top.
The problem has always been the city saying they don't have in their tool belt what they need to hold landlords accountable.
Now, in a letter to the city, some of what they're recommending is that urgent repairs be addressed by landlords within 48 hours, for the city to make AC a requirement, and they're asking for stricter policies when it comes to addressing mold. Just a few problems they say many landlords drag out.
At any time that the landlord is tired of it, they'll just sell it off to somebody else for a profit, and that person will say, oh, I wasn't aware of this. I need time to fix this. And the people that are hurting are the tenants.
He says without the city stepping in, there's nothing in place to stop this ongoing issue.
So it's just a repetitive process that if you are low income in Charlotte, there aren't protections to protect you from greedy landlords. And that's our purpose of these recommendations.
And Action NC says they hope to come up with a solution where the city is stepping in by March. Live here in Charlotte, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
Thanks so much for that update, Anna.
All right, let's get out to our forecast, talking about some of those wildfires that are still burning, one contained, one not contained just yet, but it is we are going toward the air quality.
Yeah, is that having an impact, Brittany, the fires?
It absolutely is. It's adding more smoke particles into our atmosphere, and because of this west to east movement with the wind, it is going to impact places in McDowell County, Burke County, as well as some of our other mountain communities here. Now, the only county that's in our local 22 that we cover here at WCNC Charlotte is Burke County, but you'll notice a lot of yellow for everybody else. Don't look at the yellow and be concerned by that. Moderate is pretty average, but for some of the more rural communities, oftentimes you're in good, and this is all going to be influenced here because of this mix of smoke as well as ground level ozone, which always is present across our atmosphere. The warmth certainly has not helped allow for these levels to get a little bit higher. This is normal, again, when it's warm and we see a lot of sunshine. Now, orange, which is, of course, the code that those counties will be under, is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So this is the elderly, folks already with respiratory concerns, young children. So limiting physical activity or a lot of time outdoors is pretty much the number one and number two thing that you can do here. This will be an account from midnight tonight through midnight tomorrow. So it's only Friday, and it's for those small little sections there of the foothills. But if you're in parts of the mountains or even our northern communities, especially north of I-40, you're pretty much in that direct line where some of that could impact you, again, because of that west to east movement. Now, rain should help a little, but it's not going to arrive for most of the Charlotte area until tomorrow afternoon and evening. So here's a look at Doppler radar right now. Still seeing a few areas of light rain for areas north of I-40, but for everyone else across the metro, again, it's not today that we're seeing that chance of rain. It's mainly tomorrow. Here we are at 6 a.m. You can see all of those areas seeing rain to our north, not quite for south until we get closer to lunchtime. That will be for the mountains and foothills, and then we do eventually see that rain approach Charlotte closer to 4 p.m. 4 to 8, just in time for the evening commute. That's your best chance to see rain tomorrow here in Charlotte. It'll mostly be out of here by 10 o'clock, but still seeing some pockets of moderate to heavy rain for southeastern communities like Anson County, Richmond County, closer to 9 p.m. So probably not a Friday night that you want to be going out and about for dinner, trying to grab a quick bite on maybe a potential dinner break, as all of that rain doesn't wrap up until just after midnight. But Saturday looks fantastic. Sunday looks fantastic. So a lot of good time to get outside. Now, when we look at how much rain, it's not going to be a huge rainmaker. We're looking at 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch, as it's relatively fast moving. But this is all good because it's not so much rain that it causes a flooding issue, but it's enough that it will help our current drought conditions here in North and South Carolina, as well as provide just some wetter ground that we desperately need, as it's been a while since we saw a good rain here in Charlotte. High temperatures are really not going to suffer over the next few days as we stay in the 60s and 70s for most of the week. In fact, the lowest temperature we see is Sunday, which is Groundhog Day, 59 though, still about 5 degrees warmer than normal. So here's your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Again, tomorrow 71, that rain mainly coming in for the afternoon and evening. So you'll see that PM late rain little text there on the screen. 65, beautiful on Saturday for scouting for food. A few more clouds on Sunday, but again, really, really nice weather dominating that next week and a half. We really don't see our next chance of rain after tomorrow's until the end of the 10-day.
All right, Brittany, thank you.
New tonight, a WCNC Charlotte investigation found the justice system failed to protect a Charlotte mother.
Because it was preventable.
It's all. I cry every day for my child. She just ain't coming back.
During his investigation, our Nate Morabito uncovered a series of decisions and delays across state lines that allowed a fugitive to walk free. And now she's charged with murder. As a warning, you are about to hear 911 calls that are difficult to listen to.
She was a good girl.
LaShonda McClendon.
Her personality brought everybody close.
Treated her phone.
She was just always there to comfort you.
Like a lifeline, a way of staying connected to her family. When she'd call, her kids would listen.
My last phone call was my Wednesday with her.
On December 13th, McClendon's calls ended forever.
This girl just actually pulled the gun out on me and pointed it in my face.
But not before she first dialed 911 to report Ebony Rahman, an acquaintance she says threatened her life. Around 7:30 that morning,
she needed to be going to jail.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg police responded to her plea for help. The responding officer took Rahman into custody, but not to charge her with any crime connected to the threat. Instead, when he ran her name through the National Crime Information Center database, he noticed Rahman was wanted by the York County Sheriff's Office, connected to shoplifting and criminal conspiracy charges from June.
She had an extraditable warrant out of South Carolina, took her downtown.
He drove the fugitive to jail, but then the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office turned her away. The officer returned Rahman to the scene.
Let me use my friend beside.
Less than 3 hours after McClendon called 911,
she's bleeding.
3 more people called dispatch.
She just shot it and then drove off.
All as the 42-year-old begged for help.
Please come. Please come on. Please come on. Please come on. Please.
Yes, now. You okay?
Her mother received the call every parent dreads.
I cry every day for my child. She just ain't coming back, but I got her right here, though, in my heart, right here.
McClendon's family,
because it was preventable,
is now second-guessing every decision leading up to that moment.
Yeah, they let my mom down.
It seems like a failure.
Criminal defense attorney Tim Emery says this case is as shocking as it is sad.
It suggests that our systems are not effective and efficient at keeping us safe.
WCNC Charlotte's investigation found the lack of a single signature and the addition of one word allowed Rahman to avoid jail that morning. Turns out CMPD first served Rahman with her fugitive charges out of South Carolina in July, after they picked her up on a probation violation. That began a drawn-out process to secure a governor's warrant to bring her back to South Carolina. 90 days passed with no warrant, so prosecutors, as the law allows, dismissed the charge. Records show the York County Sheriff's Office didn't fill out the formal paperwork until late October. It then took more than a month to get the needed signatures in South Carolina before North Carolina officials could approve. Rahman, meanwhile, walked out of jail in November, still wanted, but free for the time being. That brings us back to the morning of December 13th. The Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office knew a governor's warrant was almost ready, but the agency says it could not hold Rahman because then Governor Roy Cooper hadn't signed it yet. He signed the paper 3 days later. That leads to the other issue.
I've never had a client who has been taken to the jail with an out-of-state warrant and then they just say, no, you're good to go. I've never seen that.
Mecklenburg County says the agency couldn't rearrest the woman on her outstanding fugitive charges in this instance because of the way she was labeled in NCIC after her July arrest.
It's like we really lost a best friend and a mom.
LaShunda McClendon's family is now paying the price. Their mom's voice silenced, but using theirs to make a call of their own.
I pray that the police system don't let another family down like they let us down.
The York County Sheriff's Office told us an uncommon MCSO policy, not the law, is why Mecklenburg County didn't hold Rahman while awaiting the governor's warrant. MCSO told us the agency, quote, empathizes with the family, but after a thorough review, all policies and procedures were followed. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. President Trump now doubling down on his threat of more tariffs, now targeting two of our biggest trading partners.
President Trump considering a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada, and he may implement it as early as this Saturday. Let's connect the dots. The tariffs are part of Trump's strategy to pressure trading partners into cooperation. His administration believes tariffs are an effective tool to address issues like border security, migration, and trade reforms. If imposed, these tariffs could lead to a trade war with Canada and Mexico, two of our largest trading partners. Canada is already planning to retaliate, including targeting U.S. industries like lumber and auto parts. Economists warn these tariffs could increase consumer prices for all of us, particularly for auto parts, produce, bakery and dairy products, and alcohol. Trump's move reflects his broader push to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. However, the economic impact of these tariffs remains uncertain and could strain North American trade relations. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Brittany. Meantime, tonight, a tough reality to think about.
Do you know that the average age of victims in this city is 13 years old, and that every day there are children being raped and people are paying for it?
But remaining ignorant to the existence of human trafficking, specifically child trafficking, in our community will not make it go away. But one organization is seeking solutions to support Charlotte area girls recovering from sex trafficking and exploitation, and to raise awareness about the issue.
Inside the newly opened Restoration Market.
So this is our international wall.
There's hope to restore lives.
We realize is that this topic is so dark, and it's so hard for people to look into the face of it.
The new boutique in downtown Concord, hoping to take secondhand items for sale and turn them into second chances for girls escaping trafficking and exploitation.
We wanted it to have a flair of a boutique where it was fun for people to come and shop, but also bring their friends and talk to and engage with the staff and the volunteers and really just create this sense of community.
The nonprofit Present Age Ministries is behind this new concept. Executive Director Hannah Arrowwood says her group hopes to use the store to raise money for their recovery services, give a place for their survivors to shop, and also engage the community in an issue folks likely never think about.
When it's out of sight, it's out of mind for the vast majority of our population. And so this becomes a place that you can't walk in here and go, wait, what's Present Age Ministries?
Store manager Amanda McNally showed me some of the items the community donated ahead of the shop's opening and a special back wall.
All this merchandise that you see here was handmade by survivors, either Kenya or Nicaragua, which is where we have partners with Present Age Ministries. And so not only are people being able to buy goods and support the girls there, but they're also able to hear stories and also connect at an international level, not even just a local level.
A place of new beginnings for young souls who might feel like the world as they know it is coming to an end.
And you catch these moments of revelation where they realize that there's life beyond what's happened to them. And you catch these moments of hope and faith where they're like, wait a minute, maybe I could make a difference now. And those are those moments that keep us, that drive us to keep going.
Now, there are many ways to get involved with Restoration Market or Present Age Ministries. If you go to our website, we have that information. And that said, we have really just barely scratched the surface in talking about the prevalence of human trafficking in our area. For actual stories of survival, a look at the data, and what parents need to know to protect their kids, we do invite you to download WCNC Plus to your favorite streaming device, and you can stream our hour-long human trafficking special that will be coming up at 6:30. A Charlotte family asking where's the money when it comes to funding for pediatric cancer. Their son was diagnosed with cancer at just 3 years old.
Yeah, and now for the second year in a row, they're getting ready to go to Washington, D.C. to fight for funding for pediatric cancer research after Congress cut much needed money for this in December. WCNC Charlotte's Michelle Bowden spoke to them exclusively about their push for this funding.
According to the National Cancer Institute, only 4% of all government-allocated cancer research funds go towards pediatric cancer research. So this local family fighting for their own son's life are fighting for every family after a major and unexpected blow from legislators.
It hits you like a ton of bricks.
Alex Miller.
Your world just kind of crumbles.
I got sick.
You just kind of freeze and you're not really sure what to do.
Luke Miller was just 3 years old when doctors told his parents he had cancer.
Megan broke down, and the first thing Luke did with the big heart that he has, he brought Megan, my wife, a Band-Aid because she thought she was hurt. So we knew from that point on, from day one, that he was going to be a fighter. He was going to be the rock through this whole thing.
So it affected his entire system. When he got the diagnosis, he was at basically a stage 4, which is pretty much the worst you can get before you get into an unrecoverable state.
You have those moments where you're going through stuff and it's like, wow, he's 3 years old. He shouldn't have to be going through this at all.
Luke went through 3 years of a grueling special treatment protocol aimed at getting rid of the cancer.
I think watching him fight for his life, being so young, and so I saw that fight in him. And so we started really taking note with things and seeing that, you know, I had a voice and he had a voice. And so I was like, if he's going to fight, why can't we fight with him?
So first she wrote a children's book based on Luke's cancer journey, Luke and the Lost Bell.
Our goal is to get these books into the hands of families and cancer patients across the country.
Then last February, the whole family went to D.C. to fight for funding for pediatric cancer research.
To talk to Congress at Capitol Hill and talk to local legislators. We're still using drugs on children that are made for adults, which is why we're seeing all of these side effects. It's because we're treating them with adult drugs. There are very few drugs that are actually made for children.
At the time, it seemed like a slam dunk with vocal bipartisan support. But then in December, with a government shutdown looming and then President-elect Trump poised to take office, legislators scrambling to get a spending package passed slashed funding for pediatric cancer. So their fight continues.
We are going back this year because, as you know, we had 6 large bills that did not get passed as a part of the recent budget cut. And so we want to see what their stance is on that for the reactivation of these.
This time they go back with a renewed sense of purpose and hope.
I beat cancer.
Luke is now cancer-free in kindergarten and about to start the basketball season.
That's it.
He's living a normal life right now.
Cancer-free.
Cancer-free.
Pediatric cancers are the leading cause of death by disease for children and young adults under the age of 20. If you'd like more information on the fight to get more funding for research, we've got all the information you need on our website, WCNC.com. Back to you.
WCNC Weather Impact, your trusted source for winter weather and beyond.
We're committed to keeping you safe, informed, and weather aware.
From frost and freezes to snow, the WCNC Weather Impact team tells you the timing and the essentials you need to know. Get the up-to-date forecast on your schedule, always streaming on WCNC Plus.
Your weather impact team only on WCNC Charlotte.
Stream now on WCNC Plus.
When it comes to prosecuting cases like this, the Mecklenburg County District Attorney's Office is asking, where's the money?
So it says the lack of funding and manpower at the agency is impacting our local justice system. And now city leaders are pushing for more state money.
WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman joining us live from Uptown. Julia, you sat down with the district attorney today, I should say. So what is he saying about this?
Yeah, Colin, District Attorney Spencer Merriweather says the burden on his office is unbearable, saying the lack of resources is a growing problem that's impacting victims who are seeking justice.
There are inherent delays in work.
Cases are taking longer to go to trial. Mecklenburg County District Attorney Spencer Merriweather says partly due to the mountain of work assigned to each prosecutor.
Each one of the prosecutors in my office that are assigned to handle homicides themselves, in many cases, have a larger inventory of cases than whole district attorney's offices across the state.
Simply put, the manpower and resources at the DA's office are not keeping up with the county's growth.
The burden is unbearable.
The issue is catching the attention of Police Chief Johnny Jennings.
We had over 120 arrests from CMPD, and just to see how all of this accumulates over to the district attorney's office, I don't know how they're able to keep up with the resources that they have.
Mecklenburg County currently has 62 state-funded prosecutors, and the city and county are paying for an additional 23. Merriweather says they have 7 vacancies, but recruitment is a challenge.
Those are people that basically I'm asking as lawyers in one of the most expensive markets in the state and in our region to come and work in the DA's office for $60,000.
Without a competitive salary, Merriweather tries recruiting attorneys who want to make a difference in the community.
Never has anyone who's done this job had to wonder whether or not their job matters.
Merriweather noted that the state has increased the average salary for a prosecutor over the last few years, but a prosecutor in Charlotte makes the same amount as a prosecutor in a smaller town with a lower cost of living. So a bill was filed in 2023 to change that, but it didn't get anywhere. Now the Charlotte City Council is lobbying for more state money for the DA's office this year. For now, we're live in Uptown. Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, keep us posted, Julia. Thank you.
Tonight, the movement of a line is set to create a huge impact.
That's right. In just a few weeks, the reestablished line between Lincoln and Catawba counties will go into effect, and it is bringing changes that folks living on both sides will feel.
WCNC Charlotte's Jesse Pierre shares more on how the counties are preparing for this transition and what it means for those impacted.
Imagine waking up one morning and finding out that the home you lived in for years is now part of a different county. Well, come February 2nd, that will be the reality for some of the people who live here. Now, while officials are working to ease the transition, it is far from straightforward. For some, it's a technical adjustment. For others, this boundary line is drawing more than maps. It's drawing emotions.
My wife is extremely stressed out. Happy wife, happy life, so I just try to support her the best I can on it. But she's looking at a financial situation.
For Charles Ciccio,
right now I live in Lincoln County, and according to what I was been told in the papers, that as of the last day of January, I will be part of Catawba County.
This change feels like moving without ever leaving home.
The people are very nice, the county's very nice, the garbage system is wonderful. You can go to the dumps and drop your stuff off. You don't need to have it picked up at the house and pay for it every month. It's part of your taxes. Your taxes are fair.
The boundary line was drawn back in 1842. Over time, it shifted, slowly and silently, causing confusion for property owners and challenges for county officials.
What it all started with was the State Board of Elections contacted both counties because there was discrepancies in the voter locations, right? So they were getting somebody voting in Lincoln County and they were actually technically living in Catawba County and vice versa.
Counties eventually turned to the North Carolina Geodetic Survey and a new line was established. Lincoln County officials saying 385 parcels of land currently in their county will now go to Catawba County. It will gain 86. That means changes in leadership, taxes, and county services.
I'm going to want to pay a little bit less on taxes, but I'm paying more on other bills.
One of the big concerns are changes in school districts for families.
This school year, this is very important, nothing will be affected. So kids, even though this goes into effect February 2nd, students will be able to finish out the school year. This includes transportation.
The counties tried to find a resolution, but with no success. Come February 2nd, the new line will be adopted.
I'm only here 5 years, but as far as I'm concerned, and as far as we know, these county lines have been here for a lot longer than that. So why all of a sudden are we changing it? I like to see it stay the way it is.
To help people navigate the change, both Lincoln and Catawba counties are hosting public meetings next week. It's a chance to ask questions and get clarity on what happens next. Jesse Pierre, WCNC Charlotte.
When severe weather impacts the Carolinas, you can help us tell the story.
Our radar helps to keep you weather aware, along with images like these. Here's how to send us a video or picture of conditions impacting your area.
Make sure you're in a safe spot. Take a picture or a video, then send it to the Near Me feature on our WCNC News app.
Your image could be part of our weather impact coverage. Download the WCNC News app now.
All right, let's get out to our forecast, talking about some of those wildfires that are still burning, one contained, one not contained just yet, but it is talking about, we are going toward the air quality.
Yeah, is that having an impact, Brittany, the fires?
It absolutely is. It's adding more smoke particles into our atmosphere, and because of this west to east movement with the wind, it is going to impact places in McDowell County, Burke County, as well as some of our other mountain communities here. Now, the only county that's in our local 22 that we cover here at WCNC Charlotte is Burke County, but you'll notice a lot of yellow for everybody else. Don't look at the yellow and be concerned by that. Moderate is pretty average, but for some of the more rural communities, oftentimes you're in good, and this is all going to be influenced here because of this mix of smoke as well as ground level ozone, which always is present across our atmosphere. The warmth certainly has not helped allow for these levels to get a little bit higher. This is normal, again, when it's warm and we see a lot of sunshine. Now, orange, which is, of course, the code that those counties will be under, is unhealthy for sensitive groups. So this is the elderly, folks already with respiratory concerns, young children. So limiting physical activity or a lot of time outdoors is pretty much the number one and number two thing that you can do here. This will be an account from midnight tonight through midnight tomorrow. So it's only Friday, and it's for those small little sections there of the foothills. But if you're in parts of the mountains or even our northern communities, especially north of I-40, you're pretty much in that direct line where some of that could impact you again because of that west to east movement. Now, rain should help a little, but it's not going to arrive for most of the Charlotte area until tomorrow afternoon and evening. So here's a look at Doppler radar right now. Still seeing a few areas of light rain for areas north of I-40, but for everyone else across the metro, again, it's not today that we're seeing that chance of rain. It's mainly tomorrow. Here we are at 6 a.m. You can see all of those areas seeing rain to our north, not quite for south until we get closer to lunchtime. That will be for the mountains and foothills, and then we do eventually see that rain approach Charlotte closer to 4 p.m. 4 to 8, just in time for the evening commute. That's your best chance to see rain tomorrow here in Charlotte. It'll mostly be out of here by 10 o'clock, but still seeing some pockets of moderate to heavy rain for southeastern communities like Anson County, Richmond County, closer to 9 p.m. So probably not a Friday night that you want to be going out and about for dinner, trying to grab a quick bite on maybe a potential dinner break, as all of that rain doesn't wrap up until just after midnight. But Saturday looks fantastic. Sunday looks fantastic. So a lot of good time to get outside. Now, when we look at how much rain, it's not going to be a huge rainmaker. We're looking at 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch as it's relatively fast moving. But this is all good because it's not so much rain that it causes a flooding issue, but it's enough that it will help our current drought conditions here in North and South Carolina, as well as provide just some wetter ground that we desperately need, as it's been a while since we saw a good rain here in Charlotte. High temperatures are really not going to suffer over the next few days as we stay in the 60s and 70s for most of the week. In fact, the lowest temperature we see is Sunday, which is Groundhog Day, 59 though, still about 5 degrees warmer than normal. So here's your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast. Again, tomorrow 71, that rain mainly coming in for the afternoon and evening, so you'll see that PM.
Tonight, President Trump is promising to work together with state leaders to get Western North Carolina fixed up following Hurricane Helene almost 4 months ago now.
He was here today on his first trip of his second term. WCNC Charlotte's Jane Monreal was there and shows us how the visit went.
I'm standing in front of what used to be called Root Bar. It's a local watering hole here in Swannanoa. Hard to tell because of all the damage left behind 4 months after Helene tore through. The president spent part of Friday afternoon touring the town in western North Carolina, where entire streets and neighborhoods still look like disaster zones, with debris fields stretching entire roadways and into the water below. The president delivering harsh words on FEMA's hurricane response during a roundtable discussion with North Carolina lawmakers. Trump suggesting shifting emergency management to state control, saying FEMA has been a huge disappointment.
Frankly, FEMA is not good. I think when you have a problem like this, I think you want to go and, whether it's a Democrat or Republican governor, you want to use your state to fix it and not waste time calling FEMA, and then FEMA gets here and they don't know the area, they've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster.
President Trump announcing RNC Chairman Michael Whatley from Gastonia will lead the recovery effort here in